Well, hello, Karen. I'm delighted to be talking to you today. Karen Lauridsen from Aarhus University in Denmark, or now Emerita from the university. Um, and we've got a range of things we're going to talk about today, Karen, but you've had an enormous amount of experience, which you've fed into two projects in particular, and you're currently writing a book in my series with Janine Gregson Hermans. So that's the main thing I think we're going to talk about today. Is that okay?
Right. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation, Elspeth. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. So let's talk first of all about the IntelUni project, which was massive, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was quite an experience with 48 partners no, that's not true. 38 partners in 27 countries, but it was still a lot of people, different backgrounds, different languages, different cultures, but it was also such a fantastic learning experience I think for all of us, and certainly for me as the coordinator. But I think that what we were able to do with that project, we set out to discuss the challenges of the multilingual, multicultural learning space. So multilingual because everybody, all actors bring into the classroom different first languages and cultures, and then learning space because it could be the physical learning space or actually also a virtual one. But we very quickly changed it and changed our mindset, and certainly also my own mindset in talking about the opportunities and challenges of these learning spaces. And I think that was one of the important messages, that it's not just to solve some problems that arise in international education when you bring all these students and faculty together, but it's actually also looking at the opportunities and perhaps also switch some of the challenges into an opportunity, because the way I talk about it now very often is to say that they're the flip sides of the same coin.
I mean, the management of that project sounds horrendous, to be honest, but there's some fantastic materials came out of it. In particular, I really like the principles that you drew up.
Yeah. It's one of the main outcomes was that we had these principles for teaching and learning in the multilingual, multicultural learning space. And I think also what we already at that time in 2015, when we finished that project, we talked about the different actors. So the importance of having both the backup of the institutional management and leadership teams to have comprehensive internationalization and have it permeate throughout the whole organization, down to the lecturers and the students. And also they are touching on the responsibility of the students. It's not just the lecturers if the interaction in the international classroom is to be successful.
And do you think you were successful with all of those 38 partners, that they've all got comprehensive internationalization now in those universities?
They don't, but I think we came from very different spaces in any sense of that word, and we went back to those spaces, but we all took something out of that project that helped us move forward in our local contexts, and I think that's probably the important part of having such 3-year projects of this scale, is that first of all for ourselves and for the rest of the world, basically we would have painted the broad picture of the opportunities and challenges in the international classroom, but we also all learned something that helped us move forward with whatever our brief or responsibility or impact is in our own universities. And certainly for some of us, we moved on to the Equip project. And obviously one of the recommendations was we didn't only have the principles, we also had a set of recommendations, and one of the recommendations was to make sure that the people who are involved in the curriculum development and curriculum delivery actually were properly trained, because one of the things that we did find was that it very often people had examples of good practice in sort of pockets, small initiatives, but very rarely something which was either across the whole department, across the whole program, not to say across the whole university. So one of the recommendations was to better prepare teachers, the lecturers on the ground, so to speak, to to leverage the benefits of the international classroom.
Before we just move on to that, Karen, you made a very interesting point just now, that people are all at different starting points. And so everybody learned from the project and moved on from where they had been, but they didn't all necessarily reach the same stage at the end. And I think it's a really good point to make, because people are often frustrated, aren't they, that they can't, they feel as though there's an end point and we've all got to get there, but it's more about a process, and we're all at different stages along the way.
Yeah, I think definitely this particular project, but probably that's not unique. We came from very different backgrounds, and maybe we will also talk a little bit about the silos, because people had, some of them were content teachers, so teaching in a specific discipline. Some of them came from international offices. Some of them came from language centers. Some of them were applied linguists. And some of them were educational developers in what I thought was educational developers. But I realized, and it certainly came out in the EQUIP project later on, that educational developers or academic developers or academic staff developers can be a very, very heterogeneous group of people. But we could learn so much from each other.
So the silos that you mentioned, people have got their own expertise. They don't necessarily know what the other person's expertise is, and trying to sort of work horizontally must be a challenge in the first place.
I think that there are probably two things. Sometimes people simply don't know what the other people in their own university are doing. And I guess those of us who have worked in large universities in one capacity or the other do recognize that picture.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. You don't necessarily know what they do at a different address and a different faculty or school or whatever it is. But there's also the sad part that sometimes it's a no-go. I said, but can't you talk to the educational developers? No, because they don't want to talk to my department. Or can't you talk to the language center about it? No, the language center is not allowed to be involved in this. Or the other way around, the language center is trying to do something for teachers who are teaching EMI, English Medium Instruction courses, and they're not allowed then to contact the educational developers. It's really, really crazy.
So
but that's actually the reality on the ground in a lot of universities.
Yeah, the politics of the institution.
Yeah,
it's a key factor, isn't it? So you were saying then that the educational developers themselves are a very heterogeneous group, and I know you've worked in different right across Europe, but you've also worked outside Europe, and I think you've in terms of how the term educational development is understood is very varied from what you've said.
Yeah. First of all, there is an international association for centers or national centers for educational development or academic development. And the term switches back and forth. For instance, this international association and then their journal, one of them has academic, the other one has educational, but they mean the same thing.
Yeah.
So there are people who have this position, either as a staff member or as a faculty member, to support the development of the pedagogies in higher education and train faculty, very often young researchers coming into their first teaching jobs and so on and so forth, and do research and all of that. but there are so many other people who also have an educational development role, but they never look at themselves as educational
Yeah,
developers.
yeah. So sometimes it can be in a specific job and they do nothing else, and in other cases it's just part of what they do. Yeah. So how I mean, it's all fantastic experience. And how did all of that feed into the Equip project and also into the book that we were talking about?
Well, one, as I said, Equip came about as a recommendation from the IntelUni project that there should be more um, professional development for faculty. But the thing is that we also realize that those who actually do have educational development functions or roles or full jobs don't necessarily know about internationalization,
Yeah.
intercultural communication, teaching through a foreign language, all of those issues, but they might be very good at talking about constructive alignment or the leveraging educational IT tools or whatever. So they're well founded in what they do, but they just don't necessarily have a clue about the international dimensions.
Mm.
So what we thought we would do would be to put together um, a set of resources for educational developers to use, to learn from, and then to use when they support faculty or staff in the departments, in the programs, and so on and so forth across the universities. So we established from 2016 to 19 this resource site, which I'm sure that you will list under the video here, where we have all these resources in principle to train educational developers. We can run this as a 1 week intensive course, but it's open access, so everybody can go and have a look for themselves. So help them train themselves or train the teachers who are to teach in the international university.
Yeah, and there are some fantastic resources there, and now you're bringing it to different audiences through the book that you've nearly finished writing.
Yeah, we were really happy to have this opportunity, Shinning Gregersen and I, to edit this book. And what we felt when we were in the final year of the Equip project was, of course, that we did have short introductory text to the 5 modules that are there on that website, where we address issues in the international classroom from different perspectives. But they're very short thematic introductions, which are good as a starting point. But we felt that we had so much more to offer. So with some of our colleagues from Equip, we are now finishing this book where we dig more into the underpinnings, conceptual underpinnings, and the theories behind basically these modules in the first part of the book. And then we have some really, really exciting examples from around the world of how other universities approach educational development to develop international education for their students. And first of all, we realized that some of the people that we approached didn't have a clue about what an educational developer was, but they did, of course, do educational development. So we're really anxious, and we just talked about it this morning. We're really excited to bring these case stories out, and with an introduction where we point out some of the differences, but also some of the similarities from China via India and Oman to Europe and the US and Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that.
Fantastic. So it's a great example of basically what started as a European project, in the sense it's now going worldwide, and you're getting that experience and bringing that to new audiences. It's fantastic. So anyway, it's great to talk to you as always, Karen. Thank you so much for taking the time today and telling us all about that. That's great. Now I will put the links on next to the video.
Thanks for inviting me, Elspeth. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.